So months ago I did a quick review of Joust VGA, an MS-DOS shareware conversion of Joust by Dave Sharpless. In that review I sort of name-dropped the other game he made called Mario Bros VGA, and in a way planted a somewhat subtle tease at a future look at this other game that he made. And so here we are, Dave Sharpless's iteration of Nintendo's claw-cleaning arcade classic Mario Bros. Mario Bros VGA, like Joust VGA, was a shareware title that only supported one-player games. A registered version that I've never saw, or seen to this day, featured two-player gameplay so the second player could play as Luigi. Quite frankly, I'm not sure if such a version exists, and if it does, is it still available for purchase today? If you were to write to this Dave Sharpless guy saying you wanted a registered version, would he still give it to you? Probably not likely. So this shareware version lacks a playable Luigi, but at the very least you could change your control configuration to something a little more suitable for your own gaming needs, something that you could not do in the shareware version of Joust VGA. Now for those of you who have never played Mario Bros before, basically there's these critters, pests, that come out of the top pipes and they'll infest the sewers. You, as Mario, must punch the ground below these critters to turn them over, and while they're turned over, kick them off the playing field before they get back on their feet and move a little faster in order to make life difficult. And you keep doing this while collecting coins for bonus points until there's no more critters to kick off the field, usually indicated when the last pest changes color and moves at lightning speed. Or at least that's usually the case in the original game. Sometimes it won't happen here, and in the case of the fighter flies, it'll never happen. Anyway, since this game was released before Mario became Super, obviously you cannot jump on the enemies. Jumping on enemies do nothing but kill you, so don't do it. So how does Mario Bros VGA fare? Well, in terms of the gameplay, it's got the bare bones right, for the most part. The levels, the platforms, and the critters inhabiting each level sort of match the arcade and other versions of the original Mario Bros that I've played, so there's no major surprises to be found. Of course, it's not exactly the same game. You know, fireballs don't appear in the early levels in this version. Critters that escape the bottom pipe can come out of either top pipe as opposed to the top pipe on the same side of the playfield. Originally in the arcade, or at least other versions, if the critter escaped in the bottom left, he would come out of the top left. In this version, it's sort of random. It makes the game a little more different, I guess. The golden fireball that bounces around the screen practically is indestructible and starts off the stage. And there's often some collision detection issues, especially when it comes to the edges of the platforms, but other than that, it works just fine. You still have the bonus stages, no telescreen though. The POW Blocks works as well as it usually does in shaking the earth, and the controls are responsive for the most part. Probably not as smooth as I would have liked, especially when it comes to turning, but good enough, I suppose. Much like Joust VGA, Mario Bros VGA makes use of the internal PC speakers for its sound effects, which are minimal and non-annoying. There's no jingles of any kinds to be heard, or butchered for that matter, and so your ears are thankfully spared such punishment. Visually, Mario Bros VGA does a fair job of replicating the level layout and overall graphics of the arcade original. Mario looks a bit tanned on my end, at least for my tastes. But aside from that, everything looks like what they're supposed to. For a DOS game that was done on a whim, it's alright. You know, there's not much you could complain about here. It's acceptable fare, for lack of a better term. Overall, Mario Bros VGA is a pretty decent conversion of the classic Nintendo arcade game, and in spite of a few hiccups here and there, is still pretty fun to play. There are better ports of Mario Bros on the consoles and whatnots, but this one's not too bad. Would have been nice if there were two-player gameplay from the start, but still, Mario Bros VGA is good for a quick fix or two on a rainy day. And it doesn't cost a thing either, unless you want to go for that registered version that probably doesn't exist anymore, but yeah. Give it a shot if you can, it's actually not that bad.